So what is it like to be a book? Plato wrote a dialogue called the Phaedrus, in which he said that, in philosophy at least, you could never just have books, because books just keep saying the same thing over and over again. You can't ask them questions. If you ask them a question, they'll just repeat themselves. So to be a book is to have a definite content, and not to be able to have novelty, not to have anything new. I mean, once the book has been completed and the author no longer is building it, then the book is what it is, and can never be anything more. Well, that's really Hartshorne's view of our immortality. He says, top page 102, death writes the end upon the last page, but nothing further happens to the book, either by way of addition or subtraction. So that there's no novelty. Once we die, our experiences, our lives, do not fade into nothingness. I mean, that's the idea. Once we're real, we cannot become unreal. Our experiences are part of reality, and a perpetual part of reality, but the experiences we had. So as volumes in God's library, we do not continue to write ourselves. We exist perpetually in the mind of God, remembered by God, with no threat from Hartshorne's point of view of us ever fading from the mind and memory of God. We're part of His total reality, but no new experiences. And so he says, rather in an offhand way, that our traditional notions of heaven and hell, of the afterlife, are a colossal mistake. I mean, the notion that you go and you meet your family and the dog that died when you were 8 and your goldfish, that doesn't happen. That's a rather childish notion from his point of view of immortality, because that would entail new experiences. The immortality that we do have is finite, in the sense that we're finite. I mean, because the problem is, as he says, if we continued to have new experiences in some sort of afterlife, that would mean that we would have an infinite, since time would be infinite in the future, an infinite capacity to absorb experience. But that would make us God Himself, and we are not God. So he says, again on page 102, towards the bottom of the first column, it is one thing to say that death is not the end, in the sense of the closing page of the Book of Life, that there will be further chapters. It is another thing to say that there will never be any end, that the chapters will be infinite. This looks to me like a genuine impossibility. That is, you could kind of think of some novelty going on after death, but not perpetual, infinite novelty, not an infinite horizon of new experiences. That would be possible. So we should think of ourselves after death as being a book, and no divine retribution, he says, because that would mean new experience of suffering. Not even any real kind of divine reward that we would recognize from our position as being a reward, because there's no new experience. So once we exist, we always have existed, and having existed is a certain type of reality for Hartshorne, and can be best thought of in the metaphor of the book, of having written a book of life which will always be remembered in the mind of God. So if that's what it is, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about Hartshorne's view of the idea of the book of life. How does this impact on how we think of our lives now? I mean, no heaven and hell, no divine retribution, no new experiences. Also, one of the things he deals with towards the end of this essay is the possible responses. Then why the hell should I care about how I live my life? I mean, I don't get to reap any of the rewards afterwards of having lived a good life, nor do I suffer any of the just punishments of living a bad life. So why the heck should I care about how I live? That's a great question, I think. If you look, some of the possible answers, bottom of page 105 in the second column, he quotes somebody named Lequier, I don't know how to pronounce that, Lequier, Fakir said that we make our fame before God. And then a little lower, Hartshorne himself says, one might say that we mold the picture which forever will hang in the divine mansion. That is, through our lives, the way we live our lives, the quality of our experiences, what we do, we are painting a picture, and that is an eternal picture. It will hang forever in the divine mansion. I mean, we won't be punished for having made a bad picture, an ugly picture, nor will we be rewarded in any kind of recognizable sense for having painted a good, beautiful picture. But that picture is going to be there forever. So I think what he's getting at is that even though there's no, in his mind, divine reward or punishment, there's all sorts of incentives for leaving behind a good picture. I mean, it's you know, like anything else in life. I mean, how do you leave the state of somewhere where you've lived when you know somebody else is moving right in, but you'll never know? Do you tip a waitress when you know you're never going back to that particular restaurant in that particular city? I mean, yes, you do. I do. I mean, my goodness. So do you care about this life that you'll leave behind that God will know? You know, He won't punish you for a bad life. But what sort of picture do you want to leave behind? I mean, how do you want to be remembered in the mind of God? That seems to be, you know, from Hartshorne's point of view, the motivation